So everything is about mitigation, it's about planning, rather than just looking at an emergency response and building resources for that. It's an important element of it, but the key thing is the mitigation. The key thing for us is land management. As many other areas and across the whole of Europe and across the world, land use has changed. We see exactly the same has happened here, where the landscape is not managed as it was before for grazing, for sheep grazing, for agriculture. So you've got strange growth patterns within the heathland. You've got huge recreation pressure on that now as well. And the project very much aims to build in land management so that we can reintroduce methods to build resilience into that landscape. So it slows down the risk of wildfire. It gives us a chance to engage and to maybe deal with fires where they happen. So we have a confidence in the landscape.
Modern mitigation, the main point I try to deal with is to make coexistence possible among different elements of the ecosystem. And I mean, I am on the side of the most dangerous part of the ecosystem that are now ungulates. I mean, ungulates have moved from a conservation priority to a pest dimension in Europe and also in some part of my country. And basically I think that this is not proper in the sense that they are part of the environment. I mean, it's obvious that ungulates are there and ungulates are eating woods or trees or grasses. We have to manage the process and not to, to be too tranchant and deciding what is bad and what is good, but try to put all together.
I think that the issue of forest and wildlife management, it's a lot about human relations and human behavior, and it's the uncertainties is about how we can change and to propose changes and how the people will react and respond to that. And because you are dealing with humans, you cannot always foresee what will happen, and so you have to. I'm working a lot with the wildlife, and we have a biological model. Sometimes we can understand how the model is functioning, but we are not expertise in how human behavior, and I would say that the uncertainties are there, and sometimes I have a feeling that we would need professionals from another discipline that is better in handling and conflicts and human behavior, such as facilitators and those that are specialized in communication and solving conflicts among people, and sometimes we don't have access to that. We need it, but we don't have access.
I'm focusing on the kind of information that other organisations such as insurance companies and banks and forest carbon standards need on risk. So for me, the risk facility would be fantastic if it could provide better data. A lot of the organisations I work with really struggle to find standard data across Europe on things like losses from wind, losses from pests and diseases, fire, but in a way that they can actually look at probability. So the important thing is to understand what is the sort of annual probability of these kind of risks, what are the impacts, and that data often it's very isolated events, one-off storms, one-off data. But to get long-term trends, harmonise standard data across Europe on those sorts of risks would be really useful for the audience that I work with.
It gives us very quick access to expertise and experience in other countries. And it also allows us to share our experience with other member states, and from the point of view of avoiding having to reinvent the wheel, having to repeat mistakes maybe that have been made in other places. At the stage that we are at, it allows us to accelerate our program and possibly to help other member states to do the same and to share experience and also to share solutions in the long term.
Today we were speaking about how the European Risk Facility could be a contribution for the knowledge and for improving the way of working related to fire risk. I think most of the people have said that it's an interesting network for many things. One could be for the data that it could collect. Another could be for the facility of linking networks, different networks in different stratums, a very high level of European community, etc., and then a local level. I think also that this difficulty of communication should be added like another value for the European Risk Facility.
When you see how quickly this knowledge has disappeared on what happened after the storm, how they dealt with it, and then if the next storm happens 30, 40 years later, nobody remembers what happened during the last storm. And I think that's really where a European risk facility can help, so to link up people with other people, experts that faced similar situations more recently, so they can learn from each other rather than having to reinvent the wheel again or go back to the literature and then think, okay, what did they do, or what did work and what did not work. So you'll have a kind of operational network for people. Like if anything happens, you can turn to the network and say, hey, I have this problem, and then they can say, okay, maybe you talk to this and this guys and see how they solve the problem. And I think that will save a lot of energy and panic after a disturbance event, and which can save a lot of money actually, and also help to deal as best as possible with such events.
I think if we did that, and I don't think that's very expensive to do it, I think that's relatively cheap. The added value of collating our knowledge, sharing our knowledge, making it more easily available, making it readily available, I think the value to the sector could be enormous in helping to reduce the damage to forests, not just from storms, but from all risks, from insects, from pests, from drought, from fire, and so on. So a lot of the knowledge already exists, but it's not always available to everybody that needs that information. So that's where I really see the benefit of such a risk facility, and I really hope that before I retire, I see such a risk facility in place and beginning to provide these benefits to the forestry sector in Europe.